Hi everyone, Pastor Matthew here, and we are back for our Advent interviews. If you missed our first video, you can go back and watch that. But basically all we're doing is we're just trying to look at some different family traditions that people are doing in their home throughout that Advent season, which is the time that leads up to Christmas. And what we're really encouraging all the families to do is just make this a year where we experiment and try something different. And whatever kind of your family gravitates towards, just do that year after year. Weave that into your traditions. Let's use those sort of things that are on all of our calendars to intentionally disciple our families and draw us a little bit closer to Jesus. And so I'm here with Cindy Schilling. And Cindy, I think you probably love Advent more than anyone alive. Is that fair to say?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I thought that was a pretty fair statement.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty reasonable.
I do love Advent.
So what is it about Advent that you love?
I love Advent because there are traditions with it that you can include throughout the season that are a little bit separate than your regular Christmas traditions. Mm-hmm. For example, the Advent wreath. I love the Advent wreath. I love the symbolism of the Advent wreath. And I love taking time out of my day to kind of step away from the hyperactivity of December, the Christmas season,
Yes.
to really focus on why we're celebrating. So that's why I love Advent.
Absolutely. I think for a lot of people, when they think of the Christmas season, they think of sleigh bells and Buddy the Elf and whimsical things. They're all great things.
Right.
We already watched Elf. I don't mind the bells, but I'm not a naturally whimsical person,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, and so I love also combining that with some of the more serious themes.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's reflect on Jesus coming to the world. That's
Yes,
awesome.
absolutely.
So, what was Advent like for you growing up?
Well, growing up, it was mostly something done in church. So our church would celebrate Advent. There would maybe be an Advent wreath, and the colors of the church would change for the liturgical season. So growing up and into my early adult years, it was mostly just something that I observed in church through the candles and the wreath and colors and things like that.
So at what point did that switch to something that you did in the home?
When our son was 7 or 8, we were part of a small group in our church, and it was a family small group. So each time we met, there would be like a little devotion and then an activity for the family. So one year, one of the families had all the materials for the Advent wreath, and each family made an Advent wreath to take home.
Oh, neat.
So we had this Advent wreath, and then I found some books at my local Christian bookstore that pertain to family Advent activities. So one of the books was more like just kind of a listing of different activities, and the other one was more of a devotion. So we would, every Sunday, we would light the appropriate candle and have a small devotion and a little bit of an activity to go along with that.
So there'd be a couple ideas if you were interested. By the way, if you don't know how to use the Advent wreath, you can watch the last video. I'll explain how to do that. But another thing that could be done there, which would not occur to a not crafty person like me, is you can make your own. And so if you had several families that were interested in doing that, that'd be something you could do together and bring together and get the supplies. And then finding those devotionals, I think is for some people maybe the more difficult part.
Right, but ChristianBooks.com has, if you just do a search for Family Advent, they have a lot of books. There are a lot of books, a lot of resources out there online and bookstores and things like that. So there are a lot of resources out there for families who want to do Advent, and you can just ask me and I'll help you.
So if you look back, and there's some of those children activities that you were doing in your home. What were some of those kids' activities that kind of stuck out? Do you remember a few of those?
A couple of them. One of them involved drawing pictures, and I actually ran across I don't remember what the pictures were of, but it was an activity where you had to do something and then draw pictures. And then another one that I really liked was, we were talking about Jesus being the light of the world, of course, and we had to turn off all of our lights and sit in the darkness for a minute or so, and then we lit a candle, and we talked about being in the darkness and in the light, and that was a real memorable one for me. Another year I found a huge coloring sheet that each day you colored a different, it was a nativity scene, and each day you colored a different part of the nativity scene. So it was just kind of a thing that we could all do.
Yeah, and helps the kids engage with the
Yeah.
parents, and the parents are engaging with the kids, and brings up those big themes. And I think, I mentioned that in the last video too, I think one of the great things about the wreath is you can combine that with any of those. This is a chance to be creative. Try something different with your kids. See if they like it. You could always bring it back next year, or you could just say,
Yeah.
that was one we did that year,
Yeah.
and that's a fun way to do it.
Yeah.
And so now kids are out of the house
Yep.
and you're empty nesters. What does Advent look like for you guys now?
Well, we still have the Advent wreath. We put that out every year. And what I try to do is I try to bring the Advent wreath out at the beginning of Advent. And then I usually wait a little while before we actually set up the tree and do the rest of the decorating, so that we can start out with Advent and focus on that. And then we bring in the tree and all the other Christmassy kinds of things. So what I realized was that I really missed that devotional time. So I found this great book. It's the Handel's Messiah Family Advent Guide. I probably bought that 15 years ago, and I have used it every year.
Awesome.
And every year I think, oh, I've got to get something else. But it's a great resource, and it's good to just kind of go over those little devotions every day. And they're based on Handel's Messiah, which is one of my favorite works of music.
Sure.
And so I just take time every day and go through the devotional. And then on Sunday nights, we'll sometimes, we'll do the Advent candles and maybe just have a scripture and prayer and just a little bit of focus on that. It's a little bit different when you don't have kids around.
Right, exactly. But I think when you do things like Advent year after year after year, it becomes a part of the natural rhythm. And no matter what season of life you are in or what your family looks like now, you can find ways to keep these traditions alive, because it's not just about discipling our family, which is huge, but it's also reminding us about what is this season really about. And let's be in anticipation of the celebration of the birth of Christ, and of course be in anticipation for his return.
Right. And it really does help me again to kind of step away from all the craziness of the season, because even though I don't have children anymore, it's still easy to get caught up in all of that craziness and all of that, I have to do this, I have to do that. And by having an Advent wreath to focus on, even if it doesn't get lit all the time or anything, but it's still there to focus on, and I have a devotion to focus on, and it really helps me to step away from the craziness. So it's a good thing to do, I think.
I think that's great, and I hope you guys find that encouraging. Again, some more creative ideas you can do with your family, or you can do with yourself at home, or even a way to bring groups in and build the wreaths together, and some just different ways to make that a part of your rhythm years and years to come, and so we can celebrate Advent and Christmas together. So thank you for watching.